Is well, it's 2 minutes past 7, so it's call to order. Welcome everybody. Welcome to our visitors. Sandeep, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Sure.
So we'll have a roll call. Commissioner Ghosh?
Aye.
Commissioner Umarina?
Present.
And Commissioner Tam?
Present.
And myself, John Egg. We have no alternates, and maybe we can talk about that later on, Tegan. Okay, we have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda? Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda? Yes?
I motion to approve.
I do.
And do I have a second?
Who
I
was there
second.
first? I think I heard two speak at once.
You did. Well, let's start again. Sandeep, you
Yes, I second it. Yeah.
you seconded. So who approved it then?
I approved it.
Oh, thank you, Ben.
First is Tang and then Umarani. Okay.
Right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So
Aye.
okay. So Commissioner Ghosh?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Umarina?
Yes.
Commissioner Tam?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Very good. Now we had two sets of minutes to approve. The September the 28th and October the 5th. Should we, Tegan, approve them separately, or can they be approved all at the same time?
I guess you can approve them all at the same time if there's no changes.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments, questions on the minutes? Can I assume that the silence means no? Is that fair? Yes? All right. All right. Can I have a motion then for approval of the two minutes, September the 28th and October the 5th?
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second?
I second it, Joyita Ghosh.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a roll call on that then. Commissioner Gove?
Sorry.
I guess we should say, are all those in favor? Right.
John, I think a roll call vote is best.
Okay, all right. Okay, so Commissioner Ghosh?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Umarina?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. Commissioner Tam?
Yes.
And I agree too. I approve too. So we come to public forum. I don't know, Tegan, do we have anybody online right now or anything?
We do have one member of the public who has a hand raised.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead then and read the commentary. Please, those interested are invited to address the commission on any subject not on the agenda orally via Zoom, webinar, instructions above. Speakers may provide their name and city of residence for the record, and comments may be limited to 3 minutes or less. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required of the commission or staff. However, commission members may request staff to add the item to a future meeting agenda. This public meeting will be led with professionalism, respect, and civility. So profanity and/or vulgar language will not be allowed. Okay, so the public forum is open, Tegan.
Mhm. And Mr. Mehta
Yes,
is our speaker.
yes, ma'am. Good evening to Chair. Good evening to all the commissioner. Good evening to the city council member, and good evening to the city staff. What I would like to comment about is the city of Milpitas, which should be a place of to welcome a people, having people of a different culture, a diversified place where different heritage can reside, as well as the Milpitas must be a place where people always be able to freely walk, and as well as be able to understand the significance of what the Milpitas is about. So I request Chair and all commissioners, city council member, and as well as city staff member to consider my comments, and as well as make the Milpitas the city it deserves to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Tegan, are there others?
No, you only have one member of the public this evening.
Okay. All right. Well, then we should move into the announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I'll do my announcements during the city liaison report at the end.
Okay. Are there any announcements from the commissioners?
No, not from me.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so it's the business items, item 9A. And we have the Parks, Gates and Associates, I believe, Linda, making a presentation to us, and we're open and ready to listen.
And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Lee Hakim. He's the project manager on this, and he will introduce the consultants.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Good evening, chairs. Good evening, commissioners. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, we are.
My name is Lee Hakim, an associate civil engineer with the engineering department, and also the project managers for the Park and Recreation Master Plan update. We also have our consultant, Gate and Associate, joining us today, and they will be providing the presentations of the progress of the master plan, basically update of what we have completed so far and what is our next step. The project basically is to provide an update to the existing 2008 Park and Recreation Master Plan documents. This document will provide us the roadmaps to assist the city in preparing a short-term and long-term plannings for current and future improvement, programmings, and renovation projects. This master plan will be prepared in collaboration with other plans like that under the development right now, just like general plan update, metro specific plan, and biennial master plan. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn this to Linda Gate, the principal project managers with Gate and Associates. She will be presenting this PowerPoint. Thank you.
So hi, my name is Linda Gates. I'm a thumbs up if you can hear me. Great.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. So my name is Linda Gates. I'm with Gates and Associates. We're a landscape architecture firm. Our mission is to get people outside. So you can imagine that getting to work in a park and recreation master plan is, the epitome of what we love to do. Go to the next slide. We're working on a park and recreation master plan update. So that process involves sort of assessing your existing parks, facilities, and programs, because a park and recreation plan is more than just the parks. It's your programs, it's your events, it's all the stuff that the Park and Recreation Department does. In this project, we are also have sort of added an extra little task that is not always found in Park and Recreation Master Plan updates. And that was just the request of the city. We've done sort of a benchmarking of what other communities do in terms of recreation programs, both like, you know, do they offer ballet classes? Do they offer, you know, gymnastic classes? What kind of programs they offer and what kind of fees they charge, so that the city can begin to look at a cost recovery with that. And when we look at cost recovery, we're not looking at 100% cost recovery, but kind of a level of sort of cost recovery that where some programs more, some programs less, and underwriting. But that's one of the things I've asked us to look at in this master plan with programming, in addition to looking at sort of your park and recreation facilities. As with all cities, the park, our successful park and recreation master plan should be really geared towards Milpitas. I mean, it should be about you and not any other city. It's you and who you are. And the only way we can do that is having sort of meaningful community input. And that's one of the reasons we're coming to you tonight, is asking for your participation in this input process. Ultimately, what we like to do is end up, and it's a 10-year plan, is sort of a roadmap so the staff and the city council has, these are the things we want to achieve over the next 10 years and can incrementally implement over the next 10 years. Next slide. One of the things that is really great about undertaking the Park and Recreation Master Plan right now, as we've entered sort of this COVID, this new world, is I think that people have a greater appreciations for these parks and public spaces and recreation programs. Now they've converted to online and that kind of things that the city offers, much more heightened appreciation for that. And also thinking as we look towards the future, the role our parks and our recreation programs may play in the future as people are maybe working from home and they interact differently with their community. They're not spending all this time commuting, and they're maybe taking a break and using a park, and they may be taking an online class in that time period. So it's a great time to really step out of our mold. The other thing that's really good about doing this right now is you're going through a general plan update concurrently. And often we enter a city when they're not linked to each other, so there's always sort of conflicts between the two documents. Whereas here, we're able to work very collaboratively on linking these two documents. There's a couple things coming out of the general plan that I think are really sort of foundational to how we're approaching the Park and Rec master plan. One is we want to make sure that we serve the needs of all the residents of the community, teenagers, seniors, people that have lived in Milpitas for many years and live in more traditional suburban neighborhoods, as well as people moving into sort of the newer higher density developments where maybe the parks become their backyard. So the different kind of recreation needs those groups, and making sure also it's inclusive to sort of some of the vulnerable population who may have special needs or may be excluded from the park system. So making sure everybody's using the parks. The second thing that I think is really important is we're not inventing any new land in Milpitas. So one of the ways we're going to be meeting the recreation needs for the future Milpitas population is to really be looking at some of these collaborations. The Parks Department is already very successfully collaborating with the county and the school district to meet many of their sports programs. The county has a dog park up at their park site and such. So kind of being very efficient about using public land so that multiple purposes are using it, you know, kind of a much more sustainable approach as opposed to being in separate silos. So I think those are two kind of foundational things about how Milpitas is approaching their Park and Rec master plan. Next slide. In addition to the general plan, which I said was great that we're collaborating with, there also is an update of the Milpitas Metro specific plan that's sort of looking at all these higher density areas and making sure they have enough parkland and recreation experiences for people. So we're being able to, once again, align our requirements and their requirements so there's no conflicts. And then one of the things that's come up continually is people really want to have access to their parks, to be able to walk or bike to them. And the bikeway and pedestrian master plan is also being updated simultaneously. So you can see where uniquely Milpitas is able to link a lot of documents together at the same time so they support each other. So this is pretty exciting for us because it doesn't happen very often that way. We are an update, so we build foundationally on some of the work that was done in the 2008 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. That was the last time this plan was updated. Next slide. So that master plan laid out a blueprint for what's turned out to be a little more than 10 years, 12 years now. But the city, based on that master plan, invested more than $26 million in improvements to recreation facilities, like in the Milpitas Sports Center Park, the new skate park, redesigned several neighborhood parks, redid playgrounds and such. So it became sort of a clear blueprint that they have been implementing over time. And now we have the responsibility, we being all of us here tonight, to sort of pay it forward and thoughtfully think it through so that in 10 years, somebody is enjoying the benefits of our careful thinking about what we want Milpitas' park and recreation system to be. Next slide. So as I mentioned, sort of some of the efforts to date, we have visited all 36 of the existing parks and sort of inventoried the condition of them. Some are in really good condition, some are very aged, have a lot of aging infrastructure. We looked at opportunities where maybe if there's new recreation amenities that want to be added, they can be added. We also, and this is one of the nice things about doing it with the general plan, are looking at sort of the changes in the demographics. I think you all know that some of Milpitas' population is aging. I mean, a lot of people are staying in place and aging in place. So we have a more senior population. We also have a lot of new families and residents moving in there in higher density housing, some of the newer developments. So accommodating that. You're very culturally diverse, requirements like, a lot of people want to see cricket and things that maybe we didn't know about a decade ago is a high demand here because of that cultural diversity. Another thing that we look at is, I mentioned it earlier with programming, we look at benchmarking, not because we want to match any other city, but to understand how we compare and contrast with another city. Like Milpitas is more this, so of course we have more soccer fields per 1,000, or Milpitas is more this, so of course we don't have as many tennis courts per 1,000 or something. So we go and look at all the different communities, not all, but a number of different communities, and we compare and contrast to have a sense of what your acreage means, what your soccer fields means. Do you have more than many? Do you have less? So these are sort of some of the benchmarking and foundational things we do as we begin to proceed forward to kind of understand where you are today, what your needs are today, and then begin to project forward into the future. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the way we find out a lot of this information is by talking to the community. And we do this in sort of a series of rounds. So in round one, we sort of talk to people about what they think about the existing park system and what they think it lacks. In round two, some of the input we got from the first round, we kind of do a deeper dive on to sort of get more clarity on that. So fortunately, in round one, we were able actually to start it back in December and January, where we could still have in-person contacts with people. And we were able to go to a number of community events and solicit information from people. And now we're in round two, which is fairly almost all virtually. In each round, we've been doing an online survey as well, and focus groups and town halls and such. I'll get into that a little bit further. Next slide. So just to share with you a little bit around round one, because whenever I hear something's happening, like, and what did they find out? So we were able to reach about 700 people in the first round of it, and do it in multiple languages, which was great. And I think the results were pretty much as you would expect. They love the playgrounds, the swim facilities, the trails, the paths, the sports fields. What people want to add is updating the playgrounds. They wanted more community events, which is sort of interesting and I think very telling of Milpitas. Milpitas likes an actively programmed park system and recreation programs. More indoor sports, more community events. You guys really like your events and the socialization that comes to that, exercise stations and things like that. So these were some of the things they heard people wanted. Next slide. So we wanted to take a little bit of deeper dive on that. So we have a second survey that went out that I'm going to be asking you also to participate. And one of the things about the second survey is you can go into the individual parks via an interactive map, and rather than commenting generally, you can comment specifically. Like at this park that's near my home or I'm familiar with, I'd really like to see a dog park, or I'd really like to see this happen, or the playground get updated. So one of the things I'd like you to do is to participate in that, and also play it forward and ask friends and neighbors to participate and give their opinions about parks. In this round, we also did a deeper dive with some focus groups. We talked to teens, some new residents that were moving into the community about what they're looking for in their park system. We talked to sports group, and we also talked to social services providers. Your recreation department has traditionally helped support social services, and during this COVID time is really even further stepped up, making sure that if people need food, or if they have a mental health issue, or teens in crisis, that they could provide connections and such like that. So we wanted to explore that a little bit further. LEAC's been very kind to give you the link in the chat box so you can take this survey. As soon as you get off of here, you're going to be so excited to take it. And we also had a couple of virtual town halls where the community at large could participate and kind of share with some of their thinkings about the park system. And I'll share some of those results in a minute. Next slide. So this was all in round 2. We're in round 2 still. So just because I'm always curious. So we talked to organized sports, and they are very dependent on the joint use agreements with the school districts. So they like that even more formalized. They're very much aware that they'll have to collaborate, like sharing fields. We can't just have a field dedicated to one sport, that we have to be able to share fields. And that may be that we have to add lighting, or in some cases, for a really community field, add synthetic turf so that we can have more wearability of it. And they needed parking, storage, restrooms. So they talked about their specific needs related to sports parks. And we also interviewed new residents. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is new residents really want to use their parks to meet their neighbors. So they wanted, like, if possible, things were maybe group yoga classes or were exercise stations, but they were near enough so that people could talk to each other. They need that way to interact and meet their neighbors. They also would really like facilities that they can rent, like reserve for a birthday party or Mother's Day or something like that, even if it's just a picnic table area, because often they don't have room, they don't have the backyard to hold those kind of events. So discussing some of the things that they in particular need, in addition to what everybody needs in a park system. Teens felt that they weren't really welcome in the parks, that didn't feel like the parks sort of, once you got old enough that you weren't playing on the playground anymore, and if you weren't doing an organized sport, it didn't feel like the parks really had a place for you. So they were really looking for some things that maybe would, be more geared towards them. And they mentioned things like, outdoor ping pong, a swing or climbing walls, or some things that were sort of more geared towards an older teenager to use. They wanted to see Wi-Fi's in your parks, like the site furniture and stuff may be updated so it felt more cool and contemporary. One thing that was interesting, they also really, though, were interested in sustainability. They just didn't want parks that were just lawn and nothing else. They wanted to see trees and nature. They really valued that sort of green space as a contrast to their normal lives. Would like to see more social activities and programs planned in the park that gave them excuses to gather in the park. This went a little hand in hand with, apparently a lot of parents aren't always comfortable with their teens going to the park, but they're kind of too old to have their parents go with them. So sort of finding that place where parks are used enough that you have self-surveillance sort of things. The other thing is they said they really parks need to be comfortable for them in the summer, because during the school year, they're in school or they're doing homework till it's dark. And really it's during the summer when it needs shade or maybe water play or something. That's when they are more likely to socialize in the parks, warm summer evenings and things like that. So creating places where they felt welcomed in parks. And then finally, we had an opportunity, as I said, to meet with some of the social services groups and about sort of inclusion, maybe of people that are developmentally challenged and such. Different kinds of groups, how they could support the recreation program, how the recreation programs support them, what their kinds of needs are. So, but not only just in social services, but making the park system itself more welcoming to people of all abilities and such. So those were some of the things that we talked to that group about. Next slide. And in this town hall meetings, as I mentioned before, crickets come up frequently in those meetings about opportunities to play crickets. They also mentioned playgrounds and amenities feeling more inclusive, you know, for seniors as well as developmentally challenged and youth and stuff, just places that felt comfortable for people that maybe weren't as physically, you know, adaptable. Wanted to see the recreation programs more on weekdays and weeknights, because a lot of the recreation programs are offered during the weekdays when they weren't having opportunities to take it. And there was a bunch of discussion about the types of classes they would like to see added. And the recreation department is really looking at this not only for the online classes, but when we go back to in-person classes. And even when we go back to in-person classes, keeping a certain percentage online and really trying to respond to the evolving needs of the community in terms of recreation programming. As I mentioned before, connectivity is very important. People being able to walk or bike to a park, not having to get in a car and do it. So it can be something, as I said, you can take a break. You've been working all morning, you take a break, you do a walk, you go in the evening, that becomes part of your daily life. I mean, which would be fantastic. We would love that. So these are sort of some emerging trends that we saw that were kind of what I call the Milpitas flavor. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, I'm here to solicit you to go online to take the survey and give us your thoughts about the parks that you use and what you'd like to see happen with those. We will be taking that input and, as I said, share it with a friend, pass it on. You know, if you have children in your household, teenagers, encourage them to take it so that we really get a cross segment of the community. And once again, we can make it very Milpitas specific, what your needs and priorities are. Next slide. So after we complete round 2, we're currently actually working with the school districts and others to sort of identify, as I said, some of these joint use opportunities where we can take lands that are controlled by the public and have multiple agencies benefit from them. We'll be developing some prioritization criteria because we're going to come up with a whole list of improvements we want to do over the next 10 years. Well, which ones do you do first, you know, to address parity, to preserve infrastructure? So some of the criteria you use in order to each year, you know, prioritize different kinds of projects. They will be put into draft recommendations, which would be like recommending what happened in the short term, medium term, and long term. Then we'll have a third round where we go out to the community and sort of say, this is what we heard, these are our recommendations, this is how we're thinking of prioritizing it. Does this work for you? Is this reflecting Milpitas? And there'll be cost analysis done with this so that the city knows what their financial obligation would be to implement all these improvements so they can begin to put it in their CIP as they move forward. So I appreciate very much you're letting me crash your meeting, and I am here to solicit any input if you want to have it now, or you can send a letter later. I'll take it, you know, email, because you're going to think of it tomorrow night, you know, when you're talking to somebody. And yeah, I'm sure you guys are all very interested in creating more wonderful public places that you can put art in. So I figured you were a good group to talk to.
Thank you, Linda. Maybe we can do both. Maybe we can follow up with you later, and maybe we can ask you a few questions right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, one quick question, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the group here, is the timeline. Presumably you're working to a schedule, and at some point after the draft master plan, you will have a final plan. When will that be? Do you have a target?
Yes, we're hoping to be coming up with a draft master plan early next year. I mean, our ability to reach out to people, we've extended and protracted out each round of outreach because, you know, it didn't feel like we talked to enough people. It's been more challenging. So we've kind of pushed it out, but we'll be, you know, early part of next year will be complete.
Okay. Commissioners, surely you've got some questions you haven't. I've got a whole list here I've been making notes.
Okay.
Yes, I did have a question, Linda.
Mhm.
One is, are you creating a new park, or are you, what we have, that is what you're going to be changing?
So you need to do both. There will need to be some new parks created, and some of those will be created as a part of the specific plans that are being done around the metro area and such. So they're planning new parks in there, and that's what we're collaborating with them on the amenities to have there. In some cases, we'll have existing parks that are getting renovated, maybe being more activated, like other uses are being added to them. We are looking at like Dixon Landing, sort of that as a community park, maybe expanding its usability as a community park, and ideally looking for another community park area. I mean, as you need to accommodate 20,000 more people in your park system, there's only so far you can go by enhancing your existing park. So you will need to grow new parks too. But recognizing that some of that park need may be met by privately developed recreation facilities that have public access to them and such like that. So really being creative about that need.
I have just two suggestions. Milpitas has a very vibrant community with a lot of dance and music. There are several dance schools, and a stage, an outdoor stage would be a very nice thing for a park, where there are groups which also do dance with exercise, and that would be a wonderful way to bring the community to actually get the community dancing and exercising if there's a stage, which could also be used as a outdoor movie theater. But Milpitas does have a lot of theater, and people like doing all that. So it would be great, especially with COVID, if there was an opportunity to do things outside and engage the community outside. And also, I really like the idea of the food trucks. Food is a very important part of bringing people together. Milpitas is known as a foodie kind of a town. People come from several parts of the different areas just to be in Milpitas for the food. So food trucks would be a great concept for the park as well. Yeah, we love the ideas. Thank you.
Great.
Well, I have to actually, Joyita, we have not conferred on this, so, but the whole subject of recognizing the rich cultural diversity that we have in the city, sharing that amongst the community in its entirety is important. And one of my, and Tegan knows this for sure, but one of my desires long term is to actually have some kind of arena or stage somewhere where we can have the performing arts. It doesn't have to be covered, and I do know that we have a stage area in the new higher density, but the problem there is with parking. So you've got a great stage that's covered, partially covered, and so on, and yet parking there is impossible. So we need somewhere, whether it's a food truck that we're asking for or a stage, we need to consider, obviously, and you know this, Linda, we need parking or access to it. And I'm thinking around the parks that we have. I haven't been to all 36, but I've been to a good 20 of them. And none of them are very large, so I'm not quite sure how we would accommodate a food truck and attendance and people that would congregate as a result of that. So that's an interesting challenge. Does Sandeep, you've got to have some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, it's like excellent suggestion. First of all, Linda, I really loved the presentation. And thank you for sharing all the things that you plan. So before we go in more suggestion, one question: how are we going to share this information with the community? It's like, for example, I plan to put it on WhatsApp groups with my friends, and I'm planning to put it on Facebook. But for example, I used to live near the new Milpitas BART station, and as you mentioned, Chirag, like there was a park right in front of my home and there is an amphitheater, but the problem was parking.
Yeah.
And actually, you literally covered what I was going to talk. Like the parking in those areas are pretty challenging. So, two things, like how we are going to spread this to more and more audience, and yeah, parking.
It is interesting because I think as a city, Linda, you know this now because you've been in and out for a long time, is that we have a lot of small grouped areas, parks and a residential group around them clustered. If you talk about Dixon Landing, the park there, and the semi-high density buildings around it. But I'm not sure that I see very many people from other areas of Milpitas enjoying and getting a satisfaction from that particular area, except for one thing, and that's when they're playing cricket. And I do notice that there are a lot of people from every area, including Fremont and other cities too.
Yeah, actually, John,
Yeah.
the Dixon Landing Park, now that you mentioned it, an Indian festival, a spring festival, was
Yes.
done with pop-up tents all over the Dixon Landing Park,
Yes.
and they were selling different kinds of Indian snack food.
Oh, really?
And yeah, fast food. So that brought in a lot of people, not just from Milpitas, but from all around. But like you mentioned, parking was a huge issue.
Yeah.
So with anything to do with the park, if we have something like this, a stage or food trucks, we do have to think where, is the parking structure to
Yeah.
provide for something like this.
And I think, Joyita, I think it's great to have these clustered communities all around, and the ability for the local people to congregate locally. But I also think that it would be great if we could find somewhere, ultimately, I don't know how we're going to do it, where as an entire community we can congregate.
Yeah.
Because part of my challenge in the last 2 years with the commission has been trying to find ways to get the cultural groups to share their dance, their music, their culture. And it's a real struggle. I did have a couple of other notes here too. And, oh, I know, here's one, and this probably, it's a bit of a stretch, but what is the relationship between the city and the county when it comes to, I'm thinking specifically about Bernard Levin, the Levin Park. I don't go there very often, but I go there often enough with my dogs. But aside from the fact that right now it's free, typically it's not, and it's quite expensive. And so I'm wondering whether, because it's so close to Milpitas, whether we could be looking to some sort of dispensation for Milpitas residents, either no charge or a minimal charge. Because I think it's a beautiful open space and it stretches up into the hills if you want to walk, and the trails up there. And I think the community would really benefit and enjoy it. The other thing, unrelated to that, Ben, I'm sorry, I totally ignored you. Do you have some comments before I just ramble on?
No questions. I just like the idea of food trucks. You can go ahead, John.
Yeah, you like the food truck, huh? I was disappointed. You indicated that you had 418 participants when you were looking for feedback from the community. It seemed like for a population growing on 80,000, it's a very small response. if we're basing a lot of our decisions, or your decisions, your recommendations, on that relatively small group, that small input, it concerns me a little bit.
Well, in fact, so we had 700 in the first round and a little bit more than 418 because that's like climbing. But that's why we made a decision to go out and reach out to all the different commissions and such. Part of this presentation was wanting to make sure that we were reaching a cross section of the community.
Okay.
And, if we can reach a cross section, then at least we feel like we're representing the general viewpoint. Even if you don't have everybody commenting, we're getting a cross section. So we're making presentation to you as well as every other commission. And I think there's like, I don't know, 12 of them.
There's quite a few. Yeah.
Yes. And so to doing this, and it's one of those things that virtual allows us to do, normally we wouldn't meet. And it's really nice because it is, you guys give me different input than the environmental group does or the traffic safety does, all of which is very insightful. And so that's actually, I think, a nice way to get a cross-section viewpoint there. So that's, yes, we're trying to make those extra steps because it's a virtual world. And,
Yes.
Whereas normally we might be at a big festival or an event, being able to get input from people as they wandered by our booth, we can't do that right now. So
Right.
we're looking at other ways to make sure it's not about numbers as much as it is about cross-section, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. So you've got all this input at some time sitting in a room and piles of suggestions and wants and needs and so on. How do you slice the cake? How do you possibly go through and say, okay, much though we want a cricket pitch, we don't want 10 cricket pitches. How do you decide at some point how you're going to slice this cake? I'm sorry, you're ready to answer. That's
Well, and so part of it is you get repeats of different kind of information. So some things start to perk to the top because we've heard this 5 times in different places, opposed to we might hear something in one group and we never hear it repeated in another group, obviously, so that percolates up. And we don't do this in a vacuum. We do it with the staff, right? And they have a lot of insights into what works and not. And we also know what will fit. I mean, you can't have 1 million cricket pitches because frankly, you don't have enough room for 1 million cricket pitches. And as I said, because the general plan and the Milpitas specific plan, these other documents are going on, we're getting to see what they can do. So there's sort of the ideal world and there's the world that is feasible. And that's basically what we try and do, is come to feasible directions. And as I said, we don't do it in our room. We do it working with the staff about different feasibilities and opportunities. And we bring back what we think is something that's achievable. Because I could just say, oh, yes, you need a destination park that's 50 acres and all this sort of stuff because it's what you want. Well, it's not achievable. So I have to give you something that I think you can get over the next 10 years, or else it's just, so that's really, the realities also influence it. It's like, so I'm going to fight super hard for something because everybody wanted this thing. So that's it. You talk to enough people and it becomes clear the things you really have to, like, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't figure out some strategy to meet some of that need. Doesn't mean I'll meet it to the level that everybody wants it met to, but I'll meet it to the level that's right for Milpitas at this point in time. So it all works out to just be, it is what it is, right? It's the very best that we all being creative and thinking creatively can achieve at this point in time.
Well, I have 2 more questions, and before I ask them, Joyita, do you have any more questions still in there?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
You're good, Sandeep.
Yeah, I just wanted to know any specific plan about communicating this information with the community?
Well, so we have been using social media, Facebook, a lot of other different kinds of things. We've used different newsletters. We decided to go out to every commission to sort of get another cross section. Every kind of time people are rolled in program, this information's been putting out there. we are running up against a little bit just sort of Zoom and sort of fatigue, right? You know, people just getting so much information giving to us. So that's why we decided to have these personal kind of meetings to sort of really share with you how exciting a project it is. You know, for most people, whatever, you know, I'm too concerned about school reopenings and stuff like that. So we are using all those forums, but frankly, real people like you sharing with your neighbors and like, oh, I saw something about that, but I didn't care about it, is really what we're having to default to now, because it's just, we're getting a little bit of fatigue. And I think it's real people mentioning to other real people, you know, this is kind of a cool thing that's happening. It'd be a good thing to participate in. It's a positive thing, you know.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I will post it on Nextdoor Landing. But what is a good way? Do you have a link that I can post on Nextdoor Landing?
Well, I think Liat posted it at the in the chat box, that
Okay.
link in there. Yes, and it works better when, because we put some things on Nextdoor, but I think when it's coming from the neighbors, it's a little bit different than when it's coming from the city. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, yes, it's just, it helps. You guys are my enhancers, my community outreach enhancers and influencers, and telling people they really want to know what you think helps me, you know? So yeah, if you didn't get it from Liak's chat box, then we can get it to you again.
I can send the link to Tegan, and Tegan can forward to the commissioner.
Perfect. That would be great.
That would be
Yes. Because yes, if you could put on your Nextdoor, that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in your different groups.
Yeah, I'll be putting on WhatsApp groups and Facebook as well, so that
Exactly.
more and more people know.
Yeah.
You
Because we
share
have
that.
been doing it, but as I said, it's posted from the city, and sometimes people just skip right past those.
Yeah.
I agree.
No.
So my last two questions. The first one is close to my heart, is the ability for us to find more opportunities to hang permanently really good art. And I'm thinking as a first step, the City Hall. You know, I have dreams of, it's two stories high, a reception area there, that we could have either sculpture or wall art of some sort, visual arts. And so I'm not sure whether anybody else has ever brought that up, Linda, but to me, the City Hall is a sort of an introduction to what Milpitas is. And if we were able to demonstrate there, even rotational art that culturally reflects our diversity, I think that would be wonderful. I'm not saying that the library is not a good location, or the Phantom Art, when we're up and living, is not a good location. But I do think that the City Hall is our pride and joy. It's the central part of our city. And so there should be a little bit more of a reflection of what we really are. So I would really like that one included as a thought. The last, and this is most important, unrelated again, is all of these wishes. It's kind of like Christmas. You know, you ask the children, what do they want for Christmas? And they all come up with a dozen things. And then suddenly you look at your pocketbook and you say, well, wait a moment now. You can have this and you can have that. And Susie, you're going to have to go without that bicycle. But somehow this has to be dictated. You've got to fit this all into fiscal parameters. And knowing right now how serious our budget is for our city, and the hopes that within the next 2 to 3 years there will be some kind of recovery. How does all that fit into your master plan?
Well, and that's what I mentioned. You create a vision that seems implementable, and then you also create prioritization criteria in terms of sort of if safety being a criterion, parity being a criterion, a group that maybe hasn't been represented. So it's almost like you do a matrix that sort of gives points, and this a cross section of the community mentioned the need for this, but this was only a narrower. So you kind of just do a sort of a prioritization system, much the way when you have your Christmas list and you give it out, it's like you just have to do it. And, but you try and do it transparently so people understand that they're recognizing, because basically you're trying to invest public monies to do the maximum benefit that you can get out of it. And sometimes that benefit is to a vulnerable population that unless you help them, doesn't get something. Sometimes it's that, like an event that the whole community enjoys, and you're just trying to work your way through that. And there is no perfect answer. And yes, I mean, the CIP budget for parks was put on hold this year. There were a number of things the city had planned and we had to table it. And that's what we have to do in real life. Just like you said, it's like you may not give as many presents this year as you've done in the past. But that doesn't mean when you look out over the next 10 to 12 years that you might not begin to address the biggest needs. And that's it. I mean, you don't get the whole list, but you get, what was that saying? You may not get what you want, but you get what you need. It's like.
So Susie doesn't get her bike this year, but next year we've got a little bit more money. We could put it in. So that do we visit then this plan each year? Is that the?
Yeah. So you have a 10-year master plan of where you want to be and the rate at which things happen. And the part, like each year as the CIP budget is developed, they're like, this year we can get this much of it. This year we can only do that. But you understand these are the things that we've identified should happen first. These are middle, and we hope we get to them, but they may not be to the end of the 10 years.
Right.
But everybody knows that their things are on the list. It's just maybe not this year.
Right.
Excuse me, Linda, I had a question. With COVID, the one thing that has come to us is how do we make things which are, friendly during this time? What if this time happens again? And now we know a lot more of what we should be expecting. But how does the park, can you explain a little bit about whether you guys are thinking of how, a neighborhood or people can go out and still be comfortable outside in a park?
Well, and we don't get down to the final detailed design of each park here. I just want to be clear about that. And the detailed design of each park, as it comes up onto the list with this program, there'll be a whole outreach to the detailed design of a park. So I'm just going to speak in general with trends as a landscape architect I'm seeing is we are looking at things like socially distancing of picnic tables, and we just set them up for that so it naturally occurs. There's a lot of work being done about, more hand washing stations and more cleansing stations and materials and such. Certainly more interior than exterior right now. I think as a world, we think that this is, now that we know it can happen, it will have the opportunity for this to happen again will be there. So everyone, as they approach designs, is trying to think of ways to do that. We don't have all the answers yet, but I don't think anyone in good conscience would approach a specific design doesn't mean they'll solve everything, because we'll invent things along the way too, but we'll think about that. Because frankly, I think for a lot of people, I'm talking about me, being able to go outside and walk or enjoy nature or something has been really important for me during this period. And to make it so that parks can be accessible to people, I think is really important for mental health.
Yes, absolutely. And in which case, that's what I was trying to add on to what John said. Even when you're walking and you have sculptures and beautiful artwork that you can ponder, see, look at the history, it could be a wonderful thing, a walking museum in your parks. Because when COVID hit and there's nothing to do but just parks, these are, wonderful things for us to look at that. Oh, this is so beautiful. Take kids to see artwork, but outdoors. So that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, the cultural diversity of Milpitas is a wonderful asset that should enrich the lives of the people that live there. I mean, it's clear. And where else but in our public places to share that? And so the Park and Recreation, that's like, as I said, it's one of the flavors of Milpitas. That's what will come out in your master plan that might be different in a different community. but the individual designs of the parks will be re-looking at that. It'll say you need to, celebrate the culture of Milpitas as a whole in that local neighborhood, but how that happens exactly will happen as that park gets redesigned,
Wonderful hearing all the plans, Linda.
Yeah, it's fun to figure out how to get people outside, right? Great mission, right?
Does anybody else have any questions? Ben, do you have any more questions?
No questions.
All right. Sandy? No.
I'm fine, thanks.
Right.
Linda, thank you very, very much.
Well,
And,
thank you for your input. I have a whole page of notes, which is wonderful. And as I said, pass it on. We want that cross section. Thank you.
did anybody mention rugby?
Not really. I've heard that it come up a couple times, but more like you're passing, like, how about rugby? But not like, there's some rugby that goes on in the community. Don't get me, but not the same way as I keep hearing cricket, repeatedly from different sources.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Linda. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Well, that was very interesting.
Yes.
Gets the juices flowing, doesn't it, Jaida?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You kind of think, oh, things are happening and it's going to happen like that. But
Well,
no,
the good thing, I think, is that we're on the tip of the iceberg on a lot of this. I mean, obviously, we don't make decisions that are going to be unilateral, but we are involved in it. And participating in that is going to be exciting and fun. We are somewhat of a mixed group here, so we all have some cultural input here that can shape how how this all comes about. I'm excited.
I'm not surprised that she heard a lot about the cricket pitch, because during summer, there is, almost like from morning till evening, cricket teams come to play.
Yeah.
And in Milpitas, the pitch, I don't know whether it's that great, but there are kids coming from the East Coast for cricket camps, and
Yes.
it's all played in Milpitas.
Yes.
And
I've
yeah.
seen it in 3 different locations in Milpitas. One at one of the elementary schools at their field next door. One was over at Dixon Landing, and I've actually stood there and watched it for a while, and I can't remember where the other location was. But anyway, cricket's a big thing.
Yes, and it's a Commonwealth game. So the teams are a mixture of South Africa and Australia and India and Pakistan. They're mixed teams.
And
And
Britain. And Britain.
And Britain. Yep, absolutely. And so it's very interesting. They're actually probably working hard to have a team representing from the US, which would be great.
Right. I don't know, is there a local league? There has to be probably a local cricket league.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
I used to play. I was a wicket keeper many, many moons ago.
We should join them.
No, no. My eyes, I just. Okay, we better move on here because, but that was it. It was interesting. And I think, sometimes some of the topics that we're discussing are somewhat more bureaucratic, but when you can start talking about opportunities like these things, like actually participating in sculpture, I still think the City Hall needs something. It is so blank and so bland, and we should be there displaying a lot. Now, we've got to do a hard job with the council members, because I know that some of them are a little, hesitant about having it up, but we've got to work on that. That's going to be something we need to work on. Okay, so we have now 9B, Tegan, and do you want to introduce that?
Sure. So this is our Montague pedestrian overcrossing public art item that you have heard several times now. And what I'm bringing to you tonight is a draft of our call for artists. And Mike is going to share that page, I guess. We can go past the agenda report page and onto the draft. So thank you. So this is a draft of what we would be sending out to the artists. We have a couple quick little staff changes after I wrote this report and sent it to you. I had an opportunity to talk with Renee. I think we in the background area, we're describing what Milpitas is and a little bit about the site. If there's other information that you'd like us to include here, we probably could. The one thing she wanted us to take out, I think we don't need so much about the percentages of the population in this particular piece because it's changing. And people who are interested, artists who that matters to their work, they can certainly get the information from the census. That was one thing that she asked that I change. And then the other thing that she asked that we change is, or clarify, and I need your help with this, is the portion on what the commission desires to see in the artwork. And we had talked about last time that this would serve as an informal gateway to Milpitas, and you were interested in artwork that celebrated the history and identity of the city of Milpitas. And that is an excellent thing for us to include, but she cautioned that in previous calls for artists, when we have included that, we've gotten less diverse artwork. Everybody's focused on the name Milpitas comes from cornfields and things like that. And we were hoping that we could somehow add something to that paragraph that would let artists think beyond the obvious and think of all the different things that Milpitas is and include those. Just generally speaking, Call for Artists has the background information about the city. It has information about our project description, which we talked about last time. It has some specific design specifications, some of which are technical in nature and others, well, actually, I guess all of these are kind of technical in nature. On page 2 of the call, which is, I guess, page 3 of your staff report there, up at the top, I tried to convey your interest in dynamic artwork, and it's right there at the top of the page.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully I captured what you were talking about, but if I didn't, you can help me clarify that for next time. We are tentatively looking at a timeline in which this call would go out in December. I'm hoping December 4th and back January 4th. So have it out for about a month, with the goal of you reviewing designs at your January meeting and then making a recommendation to City Council for them to look at the second February meeting.
I feel we should give more time to get more artists looking into it, because this is the holiday time and a lot of people might just not be watching so much, because I'm just thinking whether it's too quick, the time to get
Yeah, I have done calls at holiday time, and usually a month is not too bad. It is certainly busy, but those who are looking for work are looking on the call sites all the time. Okay. And we will make every effort to get it out there. And then, of course, we're hoping that the commissioners would also help share the information when it goes out. Yeah. But we're trying very hard to get the artwork installed in the springtime. Mm-hmm. This is, the station is open. People are using that area. We want them to be able to see the artwork as soon as possible. So we didn't want to delay too long on it.
Okay. Joyita, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm just wondering what the time was the only thing I was concerned whether we will be able to get enough artists.
Yeah. I got several questions, and maybe we could start at the beginning here.
Sure, of course.
I can't find it right now, and I should have marked it off, but the history of Milpitas, it's really started, 2,000-3,000 years ago with the Alonis, and there's no reference to that. To me, it seems like, that if we are introducing potential pedestrians and people coming in from Mart or the transit area, that the mural could, I'm not saying it should, could in fact reflect the various different generations of settlers. And so I can't find it on this piece of paper right now. Maybe you can lead me to it. But there was a discussion about.
It's up, but I think what you're thinking of, if it's from the call, is right up at the top in the background, and it's very short. As we're talking about it, once being a small agricultural community and a crossroads rest stop for travelers. Now it's fastest growing technology. So I could certainly elaborate on those historical periods if that's something that the commission desires.
Well, I understand Renee's concern there. And so I maybe a reference more to maybe a one sentence reference to the transition of the city from the original dwellers, the Alonis, all the way through, something that sort of reflects that if we can capture some of the history in some fashion, it would help. To me, that's important.
Okay.
The second thing is I've driven up and down Montague numerous times, and I would planned on doing it today, but I didn't go around to it. The mural would be facing, it's on the north end of the crosswalk, the crosswalk. So as you're coming from 680, it should be visible. Is that correct?
That's right. As you're driving westbound,
yep,
you would have the best view of it. You should be able to see it from either direction, but yes, westbound will have the best direct view.
But, the number of times I've been down there recently, it's not as though that particular area, that particular wall is very noticeable. Now, maybe it's because for a while there, they had a lot of construction going on there and stuff like that. So I guess there's nothing you can do about that. But I think that, well, maybe there's nothing we can do, but I do think that maybe if we have 2 or 3 artists that express an interest and we like what they're trying to do, that we should give them the opportunity to actually see the site. And maybe even that the commissioners should also have a chance to actually go to the site and see it. So there's 2 different things there. I think maybe we should all take a look at that site and make absolutely sure that we feel comfortable that that is going to be, because if you're coming down the stairs, you don't see it. Is that right? It's not.
Well, you don't see it until you get out of the stairwell.
you get out of the stairwell, but you don't see it. You're actually, you're the other side.
I see it when I'm driving, like you said, but you need to have some kind of lighting to even make it visible. It's not a very visible wall.
Right. And if I'm right, and I was looking at the plans, it seems though that when you descend the stairs from the, if you come down the stairs, you're actually coming down to ground floor on the opposite side to the wall. So pedestrians would not see it. If you come down in the elevator, again, you're coming out from one side, if I'm reading the plans correctly.
And just
So-
one more thing, I do agree with you. Chances are high that those people will be heading towards Great Mall. I
Yep.
don't see any reason they would be walking in the other direction. And even if they do, they have to turn back to look at the wall. The wall won't be visible even if they walk in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see your concern. This is the spot that we've been given, and we don't have in this particular space other options.
It's okay, Tegan.
So
It's water over the dam, that particular issue. I know that's what we are going to be working with. I guess what it's telling me though is that this is not, even though it's a gateway to the city, it's not going to be an introduction to pedestrians. It's going to be more of a banner to those that are driving by on Montague.
Yeah.
It may be the sort of thing that, yes, the vehicular traffic may see it more completely than pedestrians will, but the pedestrians, when they get down, will probably see a portion as they're walking to the stairs, they'll see a portion of it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a challenge, and certainly the artists, most of the time when you put out a call, artists are going to do research and they're going to, if they're local, they're going to go see your space.
Yeah.
And so they will know what they're working with. And hopefully they will come up with some brilliant designs that will, enhance that area and make it something that people will want to, as they come out of the stairs, take a peek.
Yeah. Okay. The next question I had was, the call is going out to artists, and we talked about how open that should be, whether that should be limited to artists in the county.
Mhm.
And I think, if I remember rightly, Joyita, you had suggested maybe we consider a broader group, including maybe from the entire Bay Area.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so what is, I didn't actually get in, I don't know from this whether I actually got the impression.
It's in that first line, but I could list the Bay Area counties if that would be more clear.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah. I got another question, and that is the price tag on this is proposed at, I assume, not to exceed, rather than a total of 15,000. And I had suggested a larger amount than that, and I'm just wondering why it was changed or brought down.
Well, when we looked at the notes from last time, I believe you all, at the end of your discussion, voted to keep it with the staff recommendation, which was 15,000, which is in line with the price that murals of this size are being purchased for in the Bay Area. So we talked, I think, last time about the fact that this is one of potentially 2 projects on this structure, and that the dollar amount was the dollar amount for a mural was the appropriate price for the type of artwork and artists that we hope to attract. It's actually a pretty good commission for a mural of this, of this size, if you're talking about a painted mural. You do have more in the budget. I mean, your public art fund has more money, but you gotta make it go as far as you can. So if you'd like to make that number higher, I could certainly change it.
Well, I've talked with a couple of muralists. Unfortunately, they're not local, but to me, the impression I got was this wasn't the going rate for a mural of that size. Both of these are, professionals that have been around for a while, so I could discount their comments a little bit. So I'm just wondering, there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I'm not sure how many people are going to jump at this if the price is at this rate rather than a slightly higher rate. And I mentioned, as I did before, if we could find a budget of 30,000 for the Higuera Park, regardless of what it was, why would we not consider a similar amount for this? Because we chose a mural versus a sculpture. Is that the reason?
Well, typically when you make the public art calls, you try to price in line with what other cities have recently paid, or other people commissioning have recently offered for similar works. And in staff's estimation, that's, I'd have to look back at our notes from last time, but that was at the high end of the numbers that we found for, kind of current square footage rate. And that's figured based on all the square footage. An artist may not use every square foot. And considering we were also, encouraging emerging artists, this is quite a big price for emerging artists.
Okay. Do you have your notes on the square footage rates for murals? Because I think you gave.
Hang on a minute and I'll find them.
Okay.
I'm old school here. I'm doing it on paper. Let's see. Oh, this is too old. That's a different meeting. Let's see. So Leah, do you happen to have in your binder with you the last meeting's packet?
Let me look right now.
Well, if you saw my study,
1 minute.
you understand it would take it hours to find it, but
We'll find it for you, John. It was 10 something to 15 something. And I'm cautious here because I don't want to like accidentally bump
Yeah.
myself out of the meeting. Let's see.
how many square feet was it? It's 600 and,
The total size is I believe 629. It's yeah, 629 square feet. And that includes all the area, including the bit on the other side of the road, if they wanted to do that side. Which there's a small bit over there that's available to us. Let's see. Okay, I'm almost there. Thank you for your patience. I think we talked about it on the 28th. Was the last time that we talked about it in earnest.
Taken, you're right. I did find it on the 28th. It's one of the attachments, and you just wanted the
Well, I
dollar
think I
amount
wrote
per
in the
square
report
foot.
what the square footage range was for prices. That's what I'm trying to find right now. Oh, here we go.
Yep, on page
Yeah,
1. I'm
so-
sure you got it.
It's painted murals are averaging $10 to $50 per square foot, with the size going down as the mural price goes up, or as the mural size goes up. So this is a pretty big one. So it would be at the lower end of the price there. And so let's see, our project would be roughly $15.89 to $23.85 per square foot if the artist were to use the entire, actually, if we go with the 15, which is what we ended up doing, it would be $23.85 per square foot, which is actually, you know, between 10 and 50. That's kind of toward the middle, what I thought reasonable for a big mural.
yeah. Well, I guess I'll probably stand back from my comments and see then. It just, to me, I'd be surprised if we get a response, but that's fine. Let's leave it at the 15. And does anybody else have any opinions on that, or is it just John here?
I'm not, I think it's a good number, but I haven't spoken to any neuralists actually to find out whether I could do that, but it seemed like a reasonable amount for, you know, what I read, but
Okay.
I don't know the going rate really. Yeah.
Well, Tegan has a good point. You know, we're right now in a very stressful economic situation, and probably artists are scrambling for opportunities. So maybe this is a good idea to leave it this way. Sandeep, do you have any agreement or disagreement?
No, earlier, like I used to think that we should spend a little bit more, but after listening to your point, which is very interesting, that this space may not be like a prime spot, and it may not be visible right away to a lot of pedestrians entering Milpitas city. I'm a little reluctant to spend a lot more. Just because we have budget, I don't want to spend. So I think I'm fine with those numbers right now.
Okay. Well, we should put it on record that instead of the 30,000 that I'd asked for, we're going with 15. So Tegan, put 15 aside for the next project on the crosswalk. Okay.
John, just to clarify you are making a recommendation to council. Council could easily change the number up or down if they wanted.
That's true too.
So,
yeah, I understand that. And I would hope that the mayor and the council would, if they had any question on such an issue, would come back and talk with us about it. And I'm happy to justify it if it was necessary. That's the only other question I had, other than there was a typo error, but this is only a draft anyway, so I don't think it's important.
well, actually, if you see a typo, please call my attention to it so I can fix it.
Okay, it's page 3 of 5, timeline, number 4, right at the end of that first line, it says offered, inexecuted. I think it means
Oh,
offered.
Offered, yeah, we actually expect it to be offered in February. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so going back to so I guess we go ahead with the recommendation then, is that right? So we have a vote to accept the recommendation, is that correct?
The staff recommendation is that you approve the call for artists and recommend that City Council allocate 15,000 from the Public Art Fund for the Montague pedestrian overcrossing mural.
Right, and the only change to the call to artists is basically the narrative at the beginning there.
Right, and so I've noted that you'd like us to provide a little bit more information about the history of Milpitas, specifically all the way back to, mentioning the Ohlone, and also to list the counties of the Bay Area up at the first sentence in case it's not clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So do I have a motion to accept the recommendation?
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second?
I second it, Joyita Ghosh.
Thank you, Joyita. All those in favor?
This is Sandeep Umrani. I'm in favor.
Thank you. And Joyita?
I am in favor, Joyita Ghosh.
Thank you. And Benjamin?
I am in favor.
Thank you. And so am I. Wonderful. Do we need, oh no, that's right, we're fine. So item C, Tegan.
So the virtual performing arts, I just wanted to share with you, Mike, we don't need there's no more reports after that, so we're good. Thank you. Just wanted to share with you where we are with virtual performing arts. Milpitas Community Theater has contracted Center Stage Performing Arts to do a virtual show. It's called The Show Must Go Online, and it's a children's musical for ages 8 to 20. They are going to do auditions December 12th through the 14th with and this is all virtual. So virtual auditions, virtual rehearsals, virtual performance in February 18th through 20th. So we are excited about this first time venture into online performing, and are anxious to give the kids an opportunity to perform. The show is actually it's kind of a slice of life show. It's about a drama teacher who finds out that her production has been canceled due to COVID-19. And then they're concerned that the drama program will be shut down forever. So the kids get creative and work together to figure out how to put their musical online. The auditions will, as I said, take place over Zoom. And it'll have both the short reading from a script and prepare a song. We're having to dispense with the dance portion of the audition because of doing it on Zoom. It's too difficult to do a dance audition on Zoom. The kids who are cast will end up ultimately recording their portion and emailing those in, and then the performances will be stitched together and pre-recorded, so viewers can purchase the opportunity to watch the show online. And so that's where we are with that. It's our first venture, and we'll be sending you probably, I hope tomorrow we'll have the publicity ready to go out, so we'll send that to you, and if you can forward that to people that you know who might be interested in auditioning, we would love it. And that's really all the end of that report. Just an update.
Wonderful. Just a quick question. So does this go out on Facebook, or does this go out on our city website, or?
They haven't, are you talking about advertising it, or are you talking about the show itself?
The show itself.
So my guess is that the show itself will go on our YouTube channel, which is where we've been putting our virtual events. Okay. And that's one of the most simple platforms for people to watch longer performance type things. Okay. So.
Okay. Super. And presumably auditions would include any individual that was interested, or is it limited to Milpitas residents?
It's open to everybody. It's a little bit more of a charge if you're a non-resident, just like any of our other classes would be. There's a surcharge, but it's open to anyone 8 to 20, wherever they are. And for this one rare occasion, you don't have to be even within driving distance of Milpitas. You could be across the country, I suppose.
It's 8 to 20, so I can't suggest Joyita then.
No. I wish that they would do a grown-up show for everybody. So yeah, maybe that'll be next.
There you go. I know that Kyla Schwartz right now is working on a similar type of project. Mm-hmm. With the drama, the high school drama group. They're actually writing a play, and it's something, I forget exactly, but she's having a struggle because they're very creative individuals, but mm-hmm. getting the focus on a script and actually drafting, a full drama mm-hmm. when they're in a virtual mode has been very difficult. She can't, whip them into shape. So.
I understand that very well.
We actually did a virtual program, which was created dance performances, which was stitched together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Oh, good.
Each in their own homes, and
you said we, Joyita.
Yeah. Several dancers from different, different kinds of dancers, uh-huh. all based here in Bay Area. Oh. And then it was almost like the way they had stitched it with the, with graphics. Some of the dancers looked like they were floating. So it was very interesting the way they had done it. And we just did it in our, I did it in my backyard. Somebody else did it in their backyard.
Wow.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the link is up somewhere, that would be fun for, to see. It would be nice if you would share it if it's available for people to watch.
Okay.
There are a lot of reasons why this year has been a real struggle for everybody, but out of it, actually, some really interesting things have developed. Mm-hmm. Well, good success. Good luck. Keep us informed. Let us know. Okay.
Will do.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, I wondered if we were ready to move on to item D.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So Virtual Phantom Art Gallery, I had hoped that I would have a page to show you today, but our staff has lots of things going on and didn't quite finish it, so I don't have anything to show you yet. But what we're trying to do is put together a sample of what a virtual gallery might look like, so that we and you can help share the message to artists that this opportunity is available. Once again, we'll be looking for artists whose work lends itself to being displayed virtually. So they'll have to be able to take a picture or a video of it. And I would love it if this group could appoint a subcommittee to work with staff on notifying Milpitas artists about the virtual opportunity. I imagine we'll have information to share in the next 10 days or so. And then maybe that's right up against the holidays, but maybe starting then and running into January and through January, you could continue to spread the word for us. Does that seem like something the commission would be willing to do?
Well, let's get some input. Sandeep
Yes, I will be definitely interested in that.
and Joida?
Yeah, I will spread it, of course. And Tegan, I know festivals have shut down. There are no festivals, but an interesting thing that's happening is I actually took part with the Sacramento Festival of Arts. And what they did was they allowed artists to put in their, whatever they had, and they created it with Event Nanny, another company. So that, if you wanted to sell and locals anywhere could actually see. I don't know whether it is something, it might be very difficult, but it seems like an interesting thing for Milpitas if they want to do. There are several people, who does artwork here. They're based, there's different kinds of artwork. So it would be an interesting place for everybody to put their artwork and clay work or photographs, and maybe the city could even have commission or something from it.
Again, that sounds like a really interesting idea. If you could share the link, I'd appreciate it if I could see what that looked like.
Yeah. Okay, I will do that.
Tegan, you suggested a subcommittee. The subcommittee could consist of 3 people, I guess, because that would not be
if you were meeting as a subcommittee, but if there's more of you that are interested, I suppose we don't need to even be a committee. You can all work independently.
Yeah.
At helping, because you all have artist connections and people that you might like to notify.
Yeah. Ben, I'm sorry. I don't see you much of the time. I just see this little emblem, and so I keep not asking you your response or your feelings or reaction to this. But do you have anything you can add to this?
It's fine with me.
Okay. You're still in school, right?
No, I'm graduated.
Oh, you are? Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think, I think forming a subcommittee, Tegan, just doesn't, I think we could all do it individually. And I think that would be great.
Okay.
If you have no objections and if there's nothing, we're not contravening the Brown Act, I guess I could always use my Zoom account and contact the 3 or 4 of us and just have a discussion on how we can get the word out. Would there be
that part would be not kosher with the Brown Act. Yeah. So if you all wanted to work independently and just take what I give you and contact your own independent networks, that's fine. If you were going to, get together and discuss it and split stuff up, then we should have a subcommittee and we should do it properly.
Okay, no, you go ahead and just notify us individually. That's the best.
Okay. If that's easier, I'm happy to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I guess the one comment I would make is I would just love to see this the virtual Phantom Gallery. As soon as you've got a version of it, the last 3 days, I've actually been into 2 different virtual meetings. One was actually San Jose, celebrating the 10th year of the Content magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They opened up a whole gallery, virtual gallery, where you create your own Vivitar, and you can walk around and you can talk with different people and you can have conversations. You can go and listen to demonstrations. You can talk with other art, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it really was very, very interesting. And another one, which is for a training session with the Rotary. It's a national one, but they are doing the same thing where you create your own Vivitar and so on. I'm assuming that we're not anywhere close to that at this point. But I do see whatever we have being maybe even, I wouldn't say an improvement, but an extension or an expansion of the Phantom Gallery that we presently have, because we can bring in an awful lot of artists from the Bay Area here, accomplished artists, emerging artists, as well as our own local artists. So I think we could get a lot of mileage out of this once it's up. So,
for instance, Sacramento Festival of Arts is an expensive festival to attend when you have your own booth. The minimum is $400 to about $600 up. But when they did the digitized version, it was $90, something like that. And I thought that was a great package, and they were, they provided all the digitized version of setting up your own shop. And so that turned out to be a really good bargain. And people actually, like you did, John, there were several people who visited and talked to artists, and there was opportunities to Zoom and show the way you were drawing and painting. And, people called me when they found something interesting. And it was wonderful to be able to discuss and talk to customers after a long time.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is one of the disadvantages of this whole virtual thing, is we can't see, feel, and touch the artists. The conversations that you have, that spontaneous relationship you have with individuals.
Yeah.
Virtual doesn't do it for you.
Yeah. But, it's a nice way of moving when there's, really nothing going on. This is a great way to, great opportunity for all artists. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Would there be, could we have live things? Could we have presentations?
Sure, absolutely. We could have either recorded or live presentations. Live would probably have to be Zoom or Facebook Live method. But yeah, we could figure something like that out. I was hoping that when we had artists, that we would, at the very least, we would have something equivalent to an artist reception where they could tell about their work and answer questions and so forth. It would also be cool to be able to see them doing their work. I think we could, have snippets of filmed,
visiting their studios.
Visiting their studio, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, something like that would be nice to add as a feature to their exhibit.
Wonderful. Well, keep plugging away, Tegan. I know that you've got a lot on your, that you're working on. But from my standpoint, the sooner we get this one, the better we are, because it really is. I think would give us a great voice in the Bay Area, and not just in Milpitas. Well, I think you've got over all your reports. Do you have anything else, Tegan, that you want?
A couple of quick things. We will have a virtual tree lighting event on the 30th. We would normally have had this in person, but we do have 2 performers that are part of that, which means that, again, they are videotaped performances that will be showing on our YouTube channel. Jensen's Performing Arts will do some dance performances, and then we have a group I'm not familiar with. I don't know if they've performed at Milpitas in the past, but Forward Motion Barbershop Quartet will be doing some caroling, so that'll be fun. And of course, we'll have the countdown, and we'll have Santa Claus and everything as part of that show. So if you want to tune in at 7 o'clock on the 30th, you can watch it as it happens, but it will also reside on our Zoom or on our YouTube channel, so you can look at it anytime later if you wish. I also spoke with the folks at Valley Water not too long ago about the bench that you approved, and they told me that they are making progress. She sent me a picture of the students doing tile, so I will send that to you when I send a follow-up email after this meeting, just to share that work. As far as I know, they haven't affixed it to the bench yet, but they are making progress. So that's a good thing. And then one last thing, a kind of disappointing item, and that is the artwork at Dixon Landing. The artist has had to bow out because of the construction delays. So I think we will be back to you to do it again. We're sort of trying to figure it out on the staff end, you know, how we will proceed. But that was a piece that was approved. John, you are the only one that might have been around when that was approved. And it was actually, were you here? It was quite a while ago. It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was right. I think the first.
Right when you were here, brand new. Yeah. So anyway, so we were disappointed about that, but certainly I can understand, you know, if there's construction problems, slowness is kind of a fact of life right now.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, gives us a chance to pick on something else. Now, it's going to be interesting there because, you know, in the past, up until March, we would receive 2 or 3 or maybe even more submissions on sculpture, or well, in particular in sculpture. And then we would actually go out to the public and visit different locations and show the community 3 top candidates. So how are we going to do that virtually? I guess it's going to be another challenge. That
will be another challenge if we decide to do that. Some cities, the Arts Commission just picks the piece if something rises to the top and you don't have, you know, a need to have the public weigh in. If, for example, on the Montague pedestrian overcrossing, you know, you come up with several that you really like and you feel you need the public to weigh in, then, you know, we'll delay the timeline a little bit to allow for something, and we'll have to figure it out virtually how we can get people to see the pieces and give their input. Yeah. We'll certainly let people know on whenever you're considering art, because if, you know, they can always attend your meeting and look at the artwork and make a comment then, right?
It'd be nice to have more than one person viewing it.
It would be great to have audience members come and comment on the artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lastly, any progress as far as additional commissioners, applications, status?
No, not. We've had some youth commissioners that have applied and been forwarded. I have not received any word that any of them have been selected, but we do really, really need additional commissioners. It's hard on all of you when you're the only 4 and you have to all be present or we can't have a meeting. So
oh no, they should all be here anyway.
Well, yes, but I wish that we had more than our 4. I wish that we had, a whole 7
Yeah.
complement of 7 and 2 alternates would be ideal. I mean, that's what we're supposed to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you have folks that you know that might be interested in applying, please encourage them to do so. I can send you the link. The link is on our website, and it would be nice to have a continually, growing commission until we're full. So,
And even though we've sort of moved past the annual process of selecting and the mayor making decisions, if somebody applies tomorrow, when is the opportunity, when would they be considered and recommended to the mayor?
well, as soon as an application comes through, and city clerk notifies us that we have an applicant, staff would review it and would make would ask that the person be moved forward if they meet our qualifications, which are, really that they're a Milpitas resident, and for this commission, they need to have some interest in the arts. Yeah. So, but it can be any art form. It doesn't have to be a particular art form. So, and they need to be 18 years old or older to be a regular commissioner.
Ben, maybe you should talk with, I've forgotten her name.
Your cousin, I think, accompanied you to our first meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
if she's interested in applying, we would love to have an application from her.
Sure, I'll reach out to her.
Please do. Please do. Okay, good. Well, that's a start anyway. All right. Well, we didn't have Carmen joining us this time.
No, we don't have Carmen today.
No. I should mention, and probably you know this anyway, Tegan, but our city clerk is retiring after 15 and a half years, Mary Lavelle. And she really is, she's the silent conductor of council meetings. And during this virtual stage, she has the unlucky task of actually reading all the public forum emails. But I got to know her not at the council meetings, but actually because she used to jog with another friend who I think works at the city every morning, and I would cross them with my dogs. I would pass by and we would say good morning and so on. So I got to know her before I really got to see her in action in the council meetings. So anyway, I sent her a nice little letter wishing her well. She will be with us, I guess, until the end of this year, and then she has a new
life. Miss Mary, she's really a mainstay.
She is
great.
She is an institution. I told her that. Okay. Well, I wish you all season's greetings. A happy Thanksgiving. To me, this evening was actually really fun. We should get Tegan to come up with more of these exciting things to talk about. Okay. And thank you, Mike, sitting there in the wings, keeping this thing rolling along. Sandeep, one of these days I'm going to get you involved with the high school with the photography, and we'll talk about that offline. So all of you have your families, have a virtual Thanksgiving, but enjoy yourselves, behave yourselves, stay healthy. Tegan, thank you very, very much for being so patient with us. And I'll see you in the new year.
But we'll be in touch over email prior to that.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Before you go, there's one thing you mentioned, the virtual Christmas celebrations or the lights.
Oh yeah.
You said the 30th. Did you
yes,
mean
November 30th is the tree lighting.
Oh, the November 30th. Okay. Right. Okay.
And we were about to say goodbye, and we were just treating it like a regular meeting, but we do actually have to close the meeting.
I'm sorry, that's right. Salia, we hereby announce that this is the adjournment of the meeting. And Salia, you have a good new year and a happy Christmas too.
Thank you. You too, John. Thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.